Let's get salty!
Everyone, Zeddy here again today with a brand new video. Before we get into the topic of the video, I want to do a quick reminder. Later today on twitch.tv/Zeddy, around 5 p.m. PST, 8 p.m. EST, I'm going to be starting my 20-hour stream. It's going to be all sorts of stuff, Hearthstone, variety, all that. Come check it out to celebrate 20,000 YouTube subscribers. And as well, I'm announcing the giveaway winner for the mini set bundle. Andy Hayes, with his comment here as one. Try and comment below. I'll try and get in contact with you. They don't allow direct messaging on YouTube, so try and get out there. I'll try and get a hold of you, but you have won the mini set bundle. But anyways, let's go into the topic of the video. This has been a really heated debate on Twitter and on like some of the social media like the Wild Hearthstone subreddit, and that is the treatment of Wild. What should Wild be? What should the design philosophy be in terms of like balancing it? What do you guys think about it? And let's go over that. Before we do that, I just want to do a quick little intro to history of Wild, why it's there, what's happened with it. So it was introduced in 2016 with the introduction of the Old God set. We saw sets, I believe, like GVG, the Grand Tournament, Karazhan, all rotate to Wild, and every year cards will rotate to Wild, and basically is to open up design space for the designers, make things not as stale. You know, if things get a little too power crept, they can scale things back, or vice versa, whatever. And you know, the cards will go to the Wild format and you can just play with whatever in Wild. And they did say they would support the Wild format, but not like as, you know, as much as Standard. And over the years, we've seen some nerfs to the Wild format, whether basically to like really outlier, crazy, insane decks that are either like giant boards way too early or just a crazy combo that's just not fun to face. Examples being like Snip Snap Warlock, Liner Druid, Naga Warlock. Most recently, we've seen Dark Lair Warlock, and later this week or next week, we're going to see Wretched Tiller get nerfed with a new Tiller Hysteria combo, as announced by Ixar, that will be addressed as well. So they do address these big outlier decks, but that's for the most part it. There are other instances of like Wild being affected was Gen and Baku being rotated early because they were problematic in Standard, and they basically didn't want to nerf them. They didn't want to try and rework them. They just sent them to Wild to stay in Wild so people could play them there, but let Standard be, you know, avoid that for the next year. So with that out of the way, let's talk about the two philosophies that are going on. The two, basically the counterpoint going on right now on Twitter between like the competitive, invested Wild community on Twitter, on Reddit, and then against the lead card designer in Ixar, who's been very vocal about commenting on their philosophy, definitely open to listening to the other side of things. And it's been a really interesting and respectful debate. It's been a good one. Nobody's right or wrong. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, but let's go over those opinions. So first, we're going to start off with Blizzard's, Ixar's kind of philosophy of let Wild be Wild. So Wild, in their point of mind, is they don't want to like balance it like Standard. They don't want to really touch it that often. They only want to, again, nuke these like outlier decks, but they want Wild to be a place where you can go back and play like your favorite old deck whenever you want, that it's there. You can play it. If you want to go play Mech Mage from like GVG, you can go play Mech Mage from GVG. So that's kind of what they want. They don't want it like a heavily curated format and want to leave it as that. So be largely unbalanced, but again, if there's a big outlier, they'll take care of it. The problem with this problem with this philosophy is that you really, if you want to go back and play your old Mech Mage deck, sure, you can do that. But can you win with it? No, you're not going to win almost at all with it. The way the game has evolved with synergies, with power creep, with all sorts of stuff, it's just not realistic to win with a 2015 deck. It doesn't happen. So does it matter if you can win with that deck? Maybe not, but how many people really enjoy playing an old deck and losing constantly with it? I think that will wear out its welcome really quickly, and I don't think you're going to get much player retention out of that. And then there's also the other problem of a lot of the old decks you simply cannot play anymore. I can't play old like Patron Warrior. Warsong Commander is nerfed. I can't play that unnerfed. I can't play old Aligner Druid. Aviana's nerfed. I can't do that. I can't play Infinite Leeching Poison Lifesteal Kingsbane Rogue because that's been nerfed. So I can't go back and play my favorite old deck, but some people can play some of their old favorite decks. So it's kind of got that weird thing going on where that's not even true because that whole like imbalance just doesn't exist. So other than that, yes, you can go back and play your old deck. You're not going to be able to play competitively with it, but again, that's not necessarily the point. They might just want to let you be able to play with it and leave it as is. But for me, I think that wears out its welcome really quickly. I don't see that being a realistic thing. And from the players that I play against or play with or talk to every day that play Wild are always way more invested in that and are always typically way more engaged in like, can we please nerf this? Can we please fix this? Can we change this? It's a lot more discussion about that. That's what I see when I talk with the WoW community. But again, that's the vocal community on YouTube, on Twitch, on Twitter, on Reddit. They might be the minority. There could be thousands of players that play Wild Hearthstone every day, never use any of these, and don't feel that way. We don't know. Blizzard has a better idea on that than us, but that's kind of their mentality on it. So what's the counterpoint to that? Well, for me, it's the same one that if you read this letter, I'll post it below, is posted by Keith Numbers, who's really well put, is, you know, balance Wild to an extent. It's just kind of like standard, but not as much. Like, basically try more often to highlight the oppressive decks that are like just constantly frustrating. So right now the examples of that would be Secret Mage, Dark Lair Warlock, and Reno Priest. Those are the decks that like just dominate the format. They're tier 1. Everything else feels like tier 3 or lower. If you can't beat them, you can't win. Unless it's, of course, we're ignoring the Hysteria Tiller thing since that's going to be nerfed. And sometimes like a deck like Kingsbane Rogue pops up. Maybe that'll be up there with Nitro Boost. It's hard to tell because the meta's so out of whack with Hysteria Tiller. But again, like that's what we're looking at. And Keith outlines in his letter here that, you know, without like balancing the format, and you kind of like, you know, you can't really go back and play your old decks. It's not really realistic, and the player retention is lost from the players that want the format to be a bit more enjoyable, to be a bit more diverse, to not be the same thing over and over. Because right now it's been like 6 months or more of just Secret Mage, Dark Lair Warlock, and Reno Priest. It gets really tiresome. We would like a bit of a change. As I mentioned, they don't really want to do that. They don't want to change things for the sake of changing. They only want to change stuff that's like out of control. So our argument is kind of like, why not like advise a couple of Wild players or get in touch with the Wild community, have them kind of outline these outlier decks like a Secret Mage, like a Reno Priest, and maybe like every expansion cycle address it, and maybe like do a couple of nerfs every expansion cycle. Or if an expansion does shift up the meta, you don't have to do any nerfs at all. So let's say next expansion, there's a bunch of crazy cards and it changes up Wild, and then we don't need a nerf Secret Mage, Reno Priest, Dark Lair Warlock. We can just let things run Wild. Haha. Let's say it changes nothing and it's still the exact same meta. Then you could get together with the Wild people and maybe nerf a couple of those cards. The argument against this that Ixar has made is, again, these oppressive decks, again, are totally subjective and it's hard to really quantify. That's, again, probably why you would want to actually consult with like Wild players, the Wild community, if you're not as in touch with it as you can be. And God knows they're like spread a million different ways right now. It's really difficult. But the other argument is that, well, we just nerf, like, say, Reno Priest and Dark Lair Warlock and Secret Mage. Well, then they'll just be the next broken deck to take its place, which would be like Quest Mage. Quest Mage just got the Biscuit card. It's actually really insane, but it's only held back by a couple of these decks. Then you have to deal with Quest Mage forever. The argument I'll make against that is, yes, there's always going to be another broken deck taking the place. It's the same in Standard for that instance, too. But the difference for me is that it would just change things up. You have different counters to that oppressive deck. You can have different strategies to beat that oppressive deck. And then if that oppressive deck reigns supreme for an entire expansion cycle, the next expansion comes out and nothing does to change it, then you can do a balance patch again every like 4 months or so. And you change like 1 to 2 cards every 4 months for like a total of 6 cards total. That would be like more of an ongoing nerf approach. We're not asking for monthly balance patches like Standard. We just think that, you know, a bit more of an ongoing effort could help make Wild more just flavorful, a little bit more engaged. The players would have a little bit more reason to get invested if it's just a little bit more prioritized. So those are the 2 takes I've been mainly hearing. Let me know in the comments below how you feel about it. Should Wild just stay Wild, or would you like it to be like moderately, you know, curated, nerfed every once in a while? Not to the level Standard, but you know, like a deck like Secret Mage has been dominant for like a year straight. Maybe it gets nerfed, maybe it gets dialed back instead of just waiting for that next Wretched Tiller Hysteria combo just to throw everything out of whack. And if Ixar happens to see this video, just want to thank him for how communicative he's been. It's been great. It's been really cool to see that discussion, whether he agrees with us and changes it to be the way some of us want it to be. That's not the important part. It's just that they're listening and willing to listen, that we really appreciate it. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Have a great day. Stay salty, my friends.